Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Is my mic okay? See my different mic. Bismillah. See if I can get it then the correct way. Okay. This way. Is it okay now? Bismillah. Cannot see the. I can't see much of the. Okay. Is it okay? See. Is the mic okay? Okay. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi fi kulli lahadatin abada adada ni'amillahi wa afdalihi. Allahumma atina min ladunka rahmah wa alimna min ladunka ilma. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. نوينا التعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني والبشر الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني والبشر الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني والبشر الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم ألهمنا علما نفقه به أوامرك ونواهيك وارزقنا فهما نعرف به كيف نناجيك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم إنا نستودعك ما قرأناه وما نقرأه في هذا المجلس وما قبله وما بعده فاحفظه علينا حتى ترده إلينا وقت احتياجنا إليه يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا حكمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم يا من مقاليد الأمور كلها بيده وإليه يرجع الأمر كله يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم، يا فتاح يا عليم، افتح علينا فتحا قريبا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وسدد لساني واهد قلبي وافعل كذلك بأحبابي أبدا وارزقنا كمال فتوح العارفين والفقه في الدين مع كمال الإخلاص والصدق واليقين والعافية والغنى والنصر والحفظ والنفع والانتفاع وخيرات الدارين وعلوم الأولين والآخرين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. Okay, Alhamdulillah, 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 Alhamdulillah. We're continuing off from where we're continuing from where we left off the last time round. Right. And we are right now is like the conditions of prayer. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our prayer from us. Mashallah, there was a book that our teacher Habiba Maryam used to teach us when we were in Tarim, which is called a special what is it called? It is called a special letter to those who pray. MashaAllah. It's a book called a special letter to those who pray. In Arabic, and she used to go through it with us when we were in Tarim. And this book, right, basically, the sheikh, the author of this book, and mashallah, I have the book now as well. And inshallah, maybe in the future, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us ability, we can teach that book as well, inshallah. Right. So this book it basically gives guidance, right, to people on how to better the quality of their prayer, mashallah, and I found it to be a very impactful book, mashallah. Mashallah. So inshallah, inshallah, if we have time in the future, we can open that book and we can learn that book as part of our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in correcting and in improving our prayer. Right. So we are in the conditions of the prayer, and the conditions of the prayer are 8. And we have gone to the first one, tahara, right? And when we are going to the second one, and now we are coming to the third one, right? And as mentioned before, this class is a continuous class, which began in 2020. Right? This class began in 2020. And it's just been continuing, alhamdulillah. If you were to see the podcast, we are on our 115th episode. 115th episode in the podcast. Mashallah, mashallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give these blessings in these classes. But it's a continuous class, right? So there are, off topics that I have covered already, right, in the past, right? So for those who are new, I really, I would urge you to catch up on the class by listening to it maybe once or twice a week, right, from the beginning, right, from the beginning of the class, right, so you can follow the discussion. And inshallah, when we make a khatam of the book, right, when we complete the book, it will be like we can all khatam together, and we can complete the book together, and we can even have a majlis, inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it possible for us. All right. So we are on number 3, right, which is Satrul Awrah. Right. So number 3, قال المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا به وبعلومه في الدارين من كتاب تذكرة الحضرمية فيما يجب على النساء من الأمور الدينية، تأليف العلامة السيد محمد بن سالم بن حفيظ العلوي الحسيني الحضرمي الشافعي، نفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين. Right, from the book The Hadrami Reminder on what is compulsory for every woman to know about the matters of her religion, written by the great scholar Muhammad bin Salim bin Hafiz, right, from the Ba'alawi, and from the line of Sayyidina Hussein, and from Hadramaut, and of the Shafi'i madhab. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us by him and by his knowledge in both abodes. As the way he has said, شروط الصلاة ثمانية. الأول الطهارة عن الحدث الأصغر والحدث الأكبر، وقد تقدم ذكر الطهارة، فلو كان على المرأة حدث أصغر وهو ما أوجب الوضوء، أو حدث أكبر وهو ما أوجب الغسل، فلا تصح صلاتها حتى تتطهر. الثاني الطهارة عن النجاسة في الثوب والبدن والمكان، فلو كان على ثوبها الذي تصلي فيه أو على بدنها أو في المكان الذي تصلي فيه نجاسة لم تصح صلاتها. الثالث, this is where we're at right now. الثالث ستر العورة، وعورة الحرة في الصلاة جميع بدنها ما سوى الوجه والكفين، وعورة الأمة في الصلاة ما بين السرة والركبة. فلو صلت مكشوفة العورة أو انكشفت أثناء الصلاة ولم تسترها حالا بطلت صلاتها. نعم. Alright, so the third condition of the prayer, so just read through what we have gone through from the beginning, right? Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. The conditions of the prayer are 8. Tahara, purification from major and minor and major hadas, a state of spiritual impurity. And the issue of tahara has been discussed earlier on. We spoke about it in depth, in detail. We spoke about this earlier on. And so if a woman is in minor hadas, and minor hadas is what will require the wudu to remove, or in major hadas, and major hadas will be what will require the compulsory bath to remove. And if she prays in that state, then her prayer is of course not valid until she purifies herself from these two hadas. And this we have already explained it the last lesson. To be purified from filth, najasa, repulsive substances that prevent the validity of the prayer. This is a definition of najasa. What is najasa? Repulsive substances that prevent the validity of the prayer on the clothing, the body, the place of the prayer, right? So the three things there: on the clothing, the body, and the place of the prayer. So if her prayer garment that she prays in has najis on it, or her body, or the place whereby she is praying, then the prayer is not valid. And what is najasa? Right, so najasa would include urine, feces, blood, vomit, alcohol meaning ethanol, dead animals, non-slaughtered halal, dead animals meaning non-slaughtered halal animals, right? Or non-halal animals, regardless of how they died. Right, so non-halal animals are always taken as carcasses, as najis. Right, severed parts of animals that are not halal, so severed parts, so parts of their body that has come off and separated from the body of these animals. So the animals themselves are not najis, of course they're not. Right? So for example, cats, elephants, tiger, I don't know, alligators. So all non-halal animals for us to consume. Right? However, right, them themselves, they are not najis. Right? They are not najis. But when a part of their body is severed, and when a part of their body is severed, then that part of the body of the animal becomes najis. And here we spoke about the fur of cats, we spoke about the claws, the teeth, the tail, and so on. Right? So parts of the body of the animal that has been severed. And we have gone through this the last lesson, inshallah. Right, so I'm going to continue, I'm going to go on. Right, so number 3 is covering the aura. Okay, covering the aura. And the aura, right, of a free woman, right? Because the aura of a free woman is not the same as the aura of a slave woman, right? And we learn all these laws about the slave woman, even though there's no more slavery in our time. It is because slavery will return to human society towards the end of time. Right? Slavery will return to human society at the end of time. Right? So right now in our time, we don't experience slavery. Right? There's no slavery going on. There's no slave market. People don't own slaves. And this is only in the recent times, whereby this has been eradicated in most human societies. But it will come back. Right? So because of that, the scholars do teach and we do learn the laws of slavery that is in Islam, inshallah. So the aura of a free woman is the whole of her body. Okay, it is the whole of her body except her face and her hands. Her hands up till her wrists. Okay, and the aura, and I'll explain this in a while, inshallah, of a slave woman is between her navel and her knee. Okay, the aura of a slave woman is between her navel and her knee in a prayer. Sorry, and the aura of free woman in prayer. All right, in prayer. Right, is a whole body, right, except for the face and the hands up till the wrists. Right, so hands up till her wrists. So have the face and the hands right, up till her wrist now. And the aura of a slave woman in prayer is between her navel and her knee, right? And sometimes you might be surprised at why is her aura so little, right? Just within her navel and her knee. I mean, like her top body is not aura, right? It's not, right? It's not. And of course, we know in Islam there's always a wisdom for that, right? But it's not doesn't mean that people go around praying with just covering between their navel and their knee. People still cover up as they pray, as it is closer towards etiquette. As we see for men, right? For men, what is their aura? Their aura is between the navel and the knee for everything. Right? But you see men walking around without a shirt. Right? Most of the time, you don't see that. Right? You see that when you want to pray, they put on a thobe, they put on a jubba, right? They put on something, right, just to honor the prayer, even though their aura is just between the navel and the knee, right? So they cover more than what is required of them to cover, right? And so here, same thing with the slave girl. Just to do a bit of commentary on this, even though it does not apply to us because none of us are slaves, and we don't own slaves, right? In that, just to understand this law in Islam, right? In that, as a slave, right, it could be that a person does not have enough clothing. First thing, right? They don't have enough clothing, or and it could be that that the slave. Basically, the slave is at the mercy of the master. Right? So if the master gives the slave some clothing for prayer, then she wears that. Otherwise, she can't. Right? So it is from the mercy of Islam. Right? It's from the mercy of Islam that the aura is not as strict as with a woman who is free. Right? So a free woman will be more able, right, to cover herself as compared to a slave, and Allahu A'lam, and Allah knows best. All right. Now, okay, so right, so if she prays with her aura exposed, right, she prays with her aura exposed, right, all her aura gets exposed while she is praying, and she does not cover it immediately, then her prayer is invalid, right? Batal, her prayer is invalid. Let me give some examples here. All right. So the aura. So we know, mashallah, there are a few things that I want to put here as a note. Right. So note. Or things to be careful about. Right, with regards to aura. Okay, what are they? First one. To ensure the chin, right? To ensure the part of the head below the chin, right? Connecting below the chin is covered, as that is not part of the face. Okay, let me draw it for you. Okay, right. So, right. So this is something that's very common in our society, and inshallah, maybe spread the message, right, to those who are around us, right. So if let's say I were to draw a person, right. So I'm just going to do from the side view, right. Right. So it's a person, right, wearing a prayer garment. Right. There's a nose of the person, right. Right. Nose of a person, and okay. So for women, right. Your face, right? Your face is the face is from where your hair grows up till the very edge of your chin. That's your face, right? From where your hair grows to up to the very edge of your chin, right? So which means that the area, let me finish drawing this. Okay. So which means that the area under the chin, right? The area under the chin, for example, so she's wearing her prayer garment in this way. All right. So if someone were to put on their prayer garment like this, right, whereby they okay, all right. So if someone put on a prayer garment like this, right, whereby they pull their prayer garment right to their neck, right, and they expose these areas, right, this part right here is being exposed, right, that part right there underneath your chin, right, the underneath the chin that connects your chin to your neck, right, that part is not face. Okay, this, right, is not face, right, so which means that must cover, right, because it's part of your aura, right. So what is correct, this will be wrong, and this will be wrong. Okay, right, so what is correct, right, is that, okay, if I'll just erase this, right, what is correct is, right, is that the person must pull their prayer garment up to the front here. Okay, right, and usually, I do this, and usually your prayer garments, they have this extra like triangle thing, right? If you notice, all the prayer garments, they tend to have this extra piece of cloth, right? This is like triangular, thing, right? That enables you to actually bring the cloth up and cover what's underneath your chin, right? And this is correct. And this is correct. And because here is aura. And here is aura. Okay, this is the first point. Okay, let me do a second point. Okay, I hope you all understood this. Let me clear this. Okay, second point, right? Right. Not to pin, right, under the chin such that the neck can be seen through the loop, right, made by the excess cloth, right? But to fold it, then pin. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Let's draw. Now, okay, so now I'm going to draw a front view, right? So I'm going to draw a front view of a person, right? And here's a chin, okay, of that person. Draw a chin again. Okay, right? So this is the front view of a person. Okay, so if the prayer garment is too loose, right? Prayer garment is too loose. So she puts on the prayer garment like this. Okay. And instead of it, staying, tightly around her chin, right? The prayer garment is too loose, so therefore it dangles, right? It dangles under her chin. Of course, the best thing for her to do is to put on an inner, right? To wear an inner, and then you can pull your prayer garment to the back. Right? This is the easiest thing to do, right? Put an inner and you pull your prayer garment so your chin, it fits exactly the chin area of the prayer garment. But if let's say you don't want to pull your prayer garment to the back, you're not wearing any inner, right? And you just want to fix this part at the bottom here, right? So what do you do? right? So most people, this is what they do. Right? Most people, they bring the cloth together and they put a pin. Let me use a pin in a different color. Okay, they put a pin here, right? And then what happens to the prayer garment? The prayer garment kind of forms a loop like this. You see that? Right? Because they bring the pin together and it kind of forms a loop right beneath the pin. Okay, this is an exposure of the aura if the neck can be seen through this. Right? So whether or not anyone sees your neck is regardless of whether anyone actually sees your aura. Right? It's a matter of can the aura be seen? Right? So basically if someone were to look through this way, right, you could see the woman's neck. Right? Technically, let me just do a coloring in here. Right? Technically, the neck, the color of the neck can be seen, right, through the loop, right? And that is through the side of a woman's prayer garment, right? So this would be an exposure of the aura, right? So what you should do, as I mentioned just now, right, either you pull it all the way back, you wear an inner and you pull it all the way back. But if you're unable to do that and you want to fix the part at the and usually, I would say even just pin it to the top or pin to the sides. It's just easier. But if you just can't and you want to do it at the chin, right, then the best thing to do for you to do is right to actually fold it up, right, fold up the chin. Okay, fold up the chin and then put your pin over here. All right, fold it up, and then put your chin, put your pin, put your pin over there. Right? Can you envision? If you can understand it, as you put your pin over there, right? So therefore there is no gap, right, into seeing this person's aura. Okay, I hope that is understood. All right. Another thing, so I'm going to go through just a few things to take note about aura, because the thing about it is that unfortunately many people don't cover the aura properly. Unfortunately, right? The third thing I want to mention about the aura, and the chin being your aura is your aura. Is your aura even when you go out, not just for your prayer. Hold on, Let's see. There. Okay, right. So the aura for your prayer is also for your aura for normal times, right? So when you go out of your house, you are supposed to cover your chin as well, right? So if you were to wear a hijab, right, and you tend to pull your hijab back, to your neck, or those who wear shawl, you tend to pull it all the way back, and you expose the area under your chin, then technically your aura is being exposed. Right. So if you pray in that way, your aura is being exposed. Right. So you need to pull your hijab, to the edge of your chin. Right. And alhamdulillah, nowadays we wear our mask. And because we wear our mask, we tend to cover that area of our chin anyway. Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing that you wear the mask. Right? But if you take off the mask, then just ensure that the bottom part of your chin, it is covered. Okay, let me just do a few more. Okay. All right. Number 3, beware of translucent prayer garments. And so all those with a lot of lace, right? A lot of you would say I don't know, a lot of lace that has holes in them. Okay, because now the people want to make things, light. They want to make things easy. They want to make things, comfortable. So they tend to use cloth that, at times it is translucent, right? It is translucent, and then you can see, through a person's prayer garment, which is why it is actually recommended for women to always use darker colors. It is actually recommended, right? The recommendation of using white is for men. Right? It is for men. The recommendation of using white is for men. Whereas for women, the recommendation is not white, but darker colors. The wives of the Prophet ﷺ and his daughters, they used to always be clothed in dark colors, right? They were not known to be clothed in light colors, especially when it comes to prayer, right? So like our prayer garment that is white, right? If it's too, thin, and I've seen people who pray in this way before, that the prayer garments are too thin, that you can actually see, where what is on the t-shirt. You can see, that they're wearing inside. You can see, where the sleeves of the t-shirt end and where their hands begin. Right? You can see the neckline of their t-shirt. You can even see the hair, that you could see the shape of the bun and the hair, even the flowing of the hair beneath the prayer garment. You could see that. And I'm going to extend this to hijab as well, right? Unfortunately, a lot of the shawls out there are see-through. Right? A lot of them are see-through. And I've seen people, like, let me just draw this out. Right, this is all under the fiqh, right? It's all under our jurisprudence, right? Our law, right? So just clear this. Okay, right. So you know how people okay, they wear this is side view, okay? Okay, right. So sometimes they wear a shawl. Draw a shawl. Right, so they wear a shawl, right? And it goes like that, right? And they're wearing a shawl, right? And you can actually see, right, the inner, right? The inner being like this. I'm not sure if you've seen that, right? If you can actually see that, right? There's like the whole inner going on. This counts as showing the shape, right, of the body. It counts as that, right? Because you will not walk around with just that, right? So it counts as showing the shape, right, of the body, right? So you need to be very careful about that. That just don't use things that are translucent. Right? It won't kill you to get something that's a bit thicker, right? Just something a bit thicker, right? Just, it won't kill you, and if it gets your prayer to be accepted, then all the more, right? All the more you should be doing that, right? So just make sure that your prayer garments are not translucent, right? A lot of white prayer garments are translucent, so just be very, very wary of those, and don't use them. And then also those that have laces, that have lace in them. I've seen people praying whereby their prayer garment has like lace everywhere, and then their aura could be actually be seen through the lace. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Right, so just be very wary. And be very wary about this. You have itqan, you have you strive for the best for your religion, and inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you more. Okay. Number 4, what I want to mention is hair sticking out of the prayer garment. Okay. I personally myself, under my prayer garment, I do wear what you would call a serkop or an anak tudung, which basically is the inner. I would wear an inner. And mainly not because my prayer garment is see-through. It's not see-through. Anyways, you see through, you can see through to my neck, right? But it's not because it's see-through, but because I am wary of hair sticking out, right? Because right, if you were to just feel, some of the cloths that we use, right? So for example, like so if let's say a woman, let me just draw a woman from a side view. So yes, okay, and then this is okay, let me do. Okay, this is her, this is her nose. Okay, all right. Okay. So this is a woman, right? And if let's say she were to tie her hair, okay, so she has her hair and she ties her hair up. Let me just show you how this works. So when she ties her hair up, right, like this, okay, all right. What happens here? The hair that is a bit shorter on this side tends to do this, like this, right? The hair that is a bit shorter on this side, they tend to, they come out like that. And also the hair that is at the end, right, or along the way, you have strands coming out like this. This is how your hair will work. Your hair will come out as strands in that way. This was like a like a Roald Dahl drawing. But anyway, let me see. Okay, so if this woman were to put on a prayer garment or a hijab, prayer garment or hijab, right? So that means she's covering like this, right? And this down here. Okay, if she puts on a prayer garment or a hijab that comes like this, right? I've seen this happen. I haven't felt it on myself. This is why I began putting on the inner, right? Because when I just put on a prayer garment over my hair without an inner, right? If you put on a prayer garment over your hair without an inner, if you just feel the top of your head, right? If you just feel the top of your head, right, and you go you go from the neck up to the head, right? You can feel small hairs sticking out of your garment, right? There's small hairs sticking out of your of your prayer garment. Like right now, I'm wearing a small hijab, right? But if let's say, and I'm not wearing an inner right now, right? So if I were to just move my hand, I can just feel it right now. If I were to move, yeah, I'm wearing an inner. Okay. I thought I wasn't wearing an inner. Okay lah. But if I were to just get the bottom of my hair, right, and I were to feel the end of it, I can feel it peeking out of the cloth. I can feel strands like coming out through the cloth. It's usually very hard to avoid it. It happens, subhanAllah, if almost with a lot of different types of hijab and prayer garment, the hair will peek through the cloth. Right. So when I was younger, I used to wear, ikal hijabs, right? Those kind of like square ones. Back then already, my brother was the one who pointed out when I was very young, when I was in university. And my brother pointed out, he was like, you can see your hair from top, Then I was like, huh, where? I was like, where can you see my hair? Then he was like, right on top of your head. Like right on top of your head, I can see your hair. Right. And I was like, where? And then he was like, it's coming out of your hijab. Your hair's coming out of your hijab. It's sticking out like that. Right? Like that. Right. So ever since then, ever since then when he mentioned it, I realized that, oh yeah, it does stick out. Right. The hair does stick out. Because at the time I had my fringe comb back. Right. So it was just like on the top, right? Yeah. So if you can, not if you can, you should, right? You should be putting on an inner, right? So for me, whenever I pray, right, I will always have an inner, like head cap, right? An inner head cap. I don't know what you call it, the head cap, hair cap, right? They call it serkop, they call it anak tudung, they call it an inner cap, to keep your hair all in, right? To keep your hair all in, so that because this inner cap, it works better in holding the hair, right, all in. Okay, right, and then put on the prayer garment or put on the hijab that is over, right, over it. Okay, so this the part there. Let me clear this, and I will answer questions in a while. Let me just finish all the things to note, right, things to be careful about with regards to aura. Okay, aura being exposed at the hands. Okay, right. So this one is what happens in two ways. Right. First way is loose or baggy sleeves. Right. Right. Baggy sleeves. Or too short sleeves. Okay. Or movement that causes for the aura to be exposed. Okay. All right. Let me show you this. Okay. So, right. So if let's say someone is praying and they're wearing the normal clothing, or they are praying with those kind of prayer garments that has sleeves, right? So if this is the person who's praying, okay, person is praying, right? Okay, and then her prayer garment has sleeves. Okay, like this. Okay, first and foremost, baggy sleeves. All right, if her sleeves are, sorry, no, not short, but baggy. Okay, her sleeves are baggy. All right, so when she lifts her hand, let me just zoom in on this. Right, so when she lifts her hand like this, right, you will see this is her thumb and her fingers, and her hands like that. Okay, so when she lifts her hand up, right, to give the takbir, to say Allahu Akbar, when she lifts her hand up, right, if a person were to look on from this way, right, if someone were to look on from this way, right, so again, aura being exposed does not mean that someone actually saw it, right? It just means that someone could have, right? Someone could have seen it, right? So someone looking from this way, right, they would be able to see the arm of her hand here, right? They will be able to see the arm of her hand here, right? And that is aura, right? That will be aura. Right, so what she needs to do is she needs to secure her sleeves, right? So either by putting in some rubber, right, some rubber to hold the sleeve around the hand, right, or to sew up the sleeves to make it tighter, right, so that it is tight around the hands. Okay, she needs to do that. Right, so she's not allowed to have this baggy sleeves. Okay, the other one that I mentioned is too short sleeves. Right, so again, if a person, this happens when a person gets up from sujood, right, so maybe when they begin praying, the sleeves are long enough, they don't really try to. Okay, what I like to do also is, if I'm praying and I'm wearing a garment that I was in, while going around, and I find my sleeves are too baggy, right? What I do is that these are my fingers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Okay, what I do is that I pull my sleeves right in between my thumb and my finger. Okay, I pull the sleeves. I wrap the sleeves around, right? And I pull my sleeves here, right? And basically I hold my sleeves tightly around my wrist, right, between my thumb and my finger. Okay, so you kind of like take it and then you wrap it around, then you place it between the thumb and the finger, right? Whichever way you want to do it, right? So that's how you can keep it tight, right, around your wrist if your sleeves happen to be too large. Okay. Well, hold on, let me just check something. Okay. All right. Okay, sorry, I'm fine. Let me just come back to this. Okay, let me look what I was saying. Okay, this is one of the things whereby just ensure that all movement to cause for aura to be exposed, right? So for a person, for example, right, if wait, I'm gonna draw the short sleeve thing and do right. So if let's say so when she gets up from her sujood, this is a woman, right, and she is getting up from her sujood. Okay. Right, so she's wearing sleeves. Maybe it's her own clothing. Maybe she has a hijab on, and she's wearing her normal clothing that she's going out in, and she's getting up from her sujood, right? And the sleeves just make it to her wrists, right? So most of the prayer it covers up to her wrist, but when she gets up, right, when she gets up from her sujood, right, when she gets up from her sujood, she tends to push off from the ground, right, which will lead for her wrist to be exposed. Right, so that is an exposure right there. Okay, expose. Okay, right. So you just need to be very careful about that. Also when she's doing her ruku', right? So when she's doing her ruku', right, especially for those who wear those kind of hijabs or those kind of prayer garment that is okay, those kind of prayer garments that is half, right? So those kind of half meaning that is a top and there is a bottom. Okay, right. So this is so it's recommended that you always wear the full prayer garment. Okay, so for most of the time when you do a ruku', right, this is how your bottom part is. Okay, for most people, right, because you gotta put your hands on your knees. Well, you have to, but it is sunnah to do so. Right, you gotta put your hands on your knees. Okay, right, and then when they do this, what happens is that their prayer garment dangles in front of them, right? And then it might dangle next to them as well, right? And it dangles up like this. For most people, is how the prayer garment will dangle. I will dangle like that, correct? Okay. If someone were to look in from the side here, right? And if you were to be wearing short sleeves, okay? If you were to be wearing short sleeves and someone to look in from the side here, they would be able to see your aura. Your aura is exposed. Can you see that? And someone from the side here, right? They will be able to see your aura, exposed. Right? So just be very careful about that. Sometimes, so many times, I like even when I pray in the masjid and people are praying with the half telekung, the half prayer garment, and the prayer garment kind of like, it kind of expands in the wind. Right? It kind of like, like it expands in the wind. And if you're seated next to the person, you could actually see the aura of the person. Right? Let me just explain this. It's a few examples here. So if someone is praying like this, right? We just erase the person who is doing suture. Erase this person. Okay. So someone's praying like this. I'm sure, I don't know if any of you have seen it before. Right? Someone's praying like this. Correct? And because of the wind, right, the prayer garments are expanded like that. Right? And she's standing like this. So the prayer garment kind of like expands all around her. If someone's seated here, right? If someone's seated here, right? She could actually, if this person is not wearing long sleeves, right? But they're wearing short sleeves, right? Inside the prayer garment, right? You could actually see her aura. And it's not like you see from the bottom, right? It's actually from the side because the cutting is from the side. See the cutting? The cutting is from the side. From the bottom will be from the bottom here. And that's from the bottom, right? So it's actually from the side, because the cutting's from the side. Okay, that it counts from the side. Okay, just be very careful about all these things, inshallah. And just be very careful about your aura. Okay. Other than this, I'm just going to mention a few more things. Then I'll answer all the questions that I can see piling up. Okay. Let me just okay, hands and then feet. All right, so feet. Right, beware of translucent socks or socks with holes because of the weaving. Okay, and short socks. So I just remember something. Last week I was praying at the masjid, then the person in front of me was wearing short socks. And when she ruku, every single time she ruku, I could see like her calves. And her calves were exposed because the socks were too short, right? And whenever she would ruku, I could see her calves being exposed. And I wanted to see something that I forgot all about it. Yes. No, I just remembered that I should say something to her. But I think after the prayer, I kind of got distracted. I forgot all about it. But be very careful with translucent socks, right? Whereby you can see your toes through the socks. Socks with holes because of the weaving. Okay, here, let's be very careful. Socks that are knitted, right? Knitted, I think. Knitted. Okay, socks that are knitted. Right? At the ankle area, if you look closely, there are like holes because of the knitting. I don't know how it looks like, right? But there are holes there. Okay, so just be very, 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 very wary of those. Okay, and holes in your socks itself, right? Holes here and holes there, whatever. Right? So you make sure that they are all covered. It's basically be careful and be meticulous and be particular about covering your aura. Right. So the person that I saw, like her socks was like this. It was barely covering her feet, and then comes her legs. It's her legs itself. It's not like some pants or tights or whatsoever. And it's her legs, right? So whenever she would ruku, her garment, she was wearing a normal jubah, and her garment goes like this. And that's how your garment will move, as when you do your ruku', right? When you do your ruku', your garment will move in that way. And therefore, all of this will be seen, will be exposed. Right? So you got to be very careful about that. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Let's see if I missed out anything. Okay, inshallah. I think that's all about the pointing out the aurat thing. Pointing out the aurat thing. Yeah. Okay. Tamam. Okay, let's clear all drawings. Okay, let me answer the questions so we can take a break in a while. Okay, questions. First question. Let's see, going back all the way. As I mentioned, that if you can keep your questions to be public, it would help people, right, to understand what I'm answering. Right, so you could keep your questions public, right? If you're shy, if someone sees you ask a question, then change your name. I just put your name as a dot, or put your name as I don't know, right? Fulana or something, right? So and so, please put your name as something else, and then no one will know that it's you. Anyway, but keep it public, because so that others can actually benefit, right, from your question. Tamam. Okay. So someone says, nowadays, if you use mask while in prayer to cover the chin, is it acceptable? Yes, it is acceptable. Yes, it is. And it is a good way to cover the chin, to actually cover the chin is covered. Yes, definitely. And it's a good idea as well. Right? It's a good idea to keep your mask on and cover your chin to make sure the chin is covered. What about the feet? When we go out, must be covered too? Yes, answer is yes. The feet is aurah in the Shafi'i madhab, and you should be covering your feet in front of men who are not mahram to you, right? So, and when you go out, you should be wearing socks and be wearing like proper socks, not this kind of like see-through, dress socks, right? But proper socks. Okay. Okay. Now, okay, for niqab wearers, we have to remove them when we are at the masjid, for instance, as our foreheads will have to be one of those parts that touches the ground as we pray, correct? Yes, correct. Your forehead must touch the ground when you perform sujood. You must, right? Yeah, you must. Right, so there's no other way around it. Your forehead must touch the ground when you perform your sujood. But then ensure that your hijab covers the chin of your hijab covers the skin under your chin. We should just ensure that. Okay, explain again about the chin aura. Do I have to explain again? Is it clear? Let me just see if it's clear or not. I will explain again. Right, maybe I get a picture. Let's see if I can get a picture of a person online. Then I can at least like get a picture of face of the woman. Okay, let's see if I can get a good image. Okay, so many women here. How about that? See, like, that face of woman, and you see all kinds of women. Let me see, side profile face. Okay, good face. Let's see if I can get the okay. Okay, but this one is not outright exposing picture. All the pictures have all their outright exposed. Just don't know how to get for a girl, chin off a girl. Okay, let's see if I can get that. Girl. They're still showing woman. Chin off, little girl. Okay, we have a lot of little girls here. Let me share this. Let me share. Okay, let's see all the girls here. See, one has a good profile. There, this girl has a nice lash. Right, but basically this girl here, right? This I'm gonna highlight that. She's crying because of that. But she's a good option for showing which part is the outlet. Right, use the different color. Green. Okay, so this part, right, beneath the chin right here. This is your outlet. This is part of it counts as part of the neck. All right, this part counts as part of the neck. Right, so you gotta cover up to the very. You see where her bruise is, right? Up to her bruise. You gotta cover up to her bruise. Okay, right. Yeah, you see all the other girls. Yeah, so much easier to look for girls. Even for women, you see all kinds of pictures. Like how long that be like. Right, so for you see kind of like for the girls. She was a fan. Yeah, so the part here, you see here, side profile. Right, so I hope that's clear about the chin. Okay, about the outlet for the chin. Right. Okay, I hope that's clear. Okay, don't have to show you anymore, right? Okay. Let me go back here. Okay, let me continue the questions. Okay. So let's see. Let me go back. Okay. So I hope the person who asked about the chin being aura or the beneath the chin being aura, I hope you understand. Does the whole palm need to touch the prayer mat when in sujood? The answer is no, not the whole palm, just any part of the palm of your hand. You're going to get there, inshallah, soon. Right, we're not there yet. But any part, right? Even if it's one finger, right? It counts, and it doesn't have to be the skin. It could even be covered by a cloth. Does the whole palm need to touch the prayer mat when in sujood? Right, same thing, for najis, let's say our clothes or our skin was hit by pork, should we sertu or just do a normal wash? For clothes, if you never plan to pray in those clothes ever, doesn't matter what you do, right? But if you plan to pray in those clothes, or if like what hits it, is on the inside and it could touch your skin, when your skin is wet, right? Then you would. But even then, if it's on the outside, if your clothes do get wet in the rain or something, then the najis transfers to your skin, right? So it really depends on what you want to do with those clothes. Right? So but I would say you need to remove the najasa. If you just do a normal wash, the najis is still there. The najis is not removed. The najis is still there. Right? So if you want to remove the najis, you need to do the entire thing with the surtu. You need to do the entire thing with the soil and soil 1 time and water 6 times. Okay. Question here: is it okay to wrap the palms of our hands with our sleeves during sujood? Yes, you can. Or should the palm of your hands be exposed during sujood? You don't have to, right? You don't have to. There's also different opinion whether or not it is even sunnah. Some say it's not even sunnah, some say it's sunnah, right? So so that it just basically it's not like it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, right? To expose your hands in sujood, but I do hold on to the opinion that whereby it is sunnah to expose the hands, right? It's sunnah. So a similar question is, can we sujood on our telekung, meaning our palms rest on the telekung and not the mat? Okay, for your entire body, with the exception of your forehead, you can rest on your prayer garment. Right, the entire body with the exception of the forehead. Right, the forehead cannot rest on your own prayer garment. Only the forehead. Right, only the forehead. Okay. Is it permissible to pray using a portable, hold the telekung with the hijab tucked inside the prayer garment, or to leave the hijab outside the prayer garment? It makes no difference. It makes no difference. Whether the hijab is tucked inside, the hijab is outside. But I would say maybe tucked inside, it will be closer to protecting your aura from being exposed, right? Because the hijab will not fly when you do your sujood and stuff like that. It won't fly over your head and stuff like that. Right. So tuck it in, it'll be safer. It'll be safer. But basically it is there's no difference. Whether you just tuck it in or you just leave it out, it's up to you. Okay. If you're at home alone, is it okay to wear short sleeves inside, or should you still wear long sleeves? Right, wear long sleeves because of what I've just mentioned, right? Of short sleeves being a possibility that your aura can be exposed. And the exposure of your aura is not a matter of anyone seeing you. You could be alone in a cave, in the night, in the pitch darkness of a night, right? Your aura is your aura. You got to cover your aura. Right, so it's not a matter of anyone seeing you, right? It's not a matter of anyone seeing you, but it's a matter of you covering it, right? What is the ruling if we don't, try and just speak to a person who was wearing translucent, hijab, because we are awam, or we are the general public? How do we just remind them? Just tell them. I just say to them, "Hey, fine, I can see through your hijab, so." Just in case you didn't know, right? Just tell them, and just go in that way, right? So always maintain a good opinion that they didn't know. They didn't know that their hijab is actually see through, right? So you just say to them, I can actually see your neck. I can see your neck. I can see your that it's see through. I'm not sure if you actually notice that your hijab is see through, right? In that way, right? Do it in that way. Okay. In addition to the socks that are translucent or with holes, right? If that's the only socks that we have at a point in time, since we're outside, do we continue to continue with our prayers or qada at home when we have full access to the proper garment? Inshallah, we'll get to that, right? But the ruling is that if you cannot meet any of the conditions of the prayer, this is the general rule of thumb. Remember this, okay? General rule of thumb, right? And this is based on the words of the Prophet ﷺ, whereby he said, whatever I have commanded you to do, then do of it to the best of your ability. Right? Whatever I have commanded you to do, then do of it to the best of your ability. Right? So it's a general rule in the prayer that whenever you're unable to meet any of the conditions in the prayer, you still pray to the best of your ability. Right? So whatever you can meet of conditions, you meet those conditions, right? So if you only have those, holy socks or translucent socks, and you have nothing else to cover your feet, and you can't even pull down your skirt or something to try and get your feet covered, or something, maybe no matter what you try, you can't get your feet covered. Okay, pray as how you are. Pray as how you are, and then later do a qada, but don't miss the prayer, because if you miss the prayer, you're counted as someone who missed the prayer, right? And that is a major sin, right? To miss the prayer is a major sin. Okay, right? So if you miss the prayer, if you don't pray at all, right? You're counted as someone who actually missed the prayer. Understand that, right? So you pray as however you're able to pray, but your prayer is not valid because your feet is not covered, right? So when you go back home and you're able to do a full prayer, then perform the prayer again. And the same goes for all the conditions that we're going to go through. The 8 conditions of the prayer, right? It's the same for every single one of them, right? So if someone were to be unsure of where's the qibla, they don't know where's the qibla. Do they still pray? Yes, they pray however they can. And then when they know where is the qibla, for them to do the prayer again. If someone is unable to, do tahara, or they have only one small amount of water and they can't perform the full wudu, right? Then that small amount of water is just used to wash their face, and that's it, right? And they can't perform the full wudu, and they pray like that. Then when they're able to perform the full wudu, then they redo their prayer. If someone has najis on their clothing and they have no other clothing except for the najis clothing, or najis on their hands or on their, on their body or whatsoever, right? And they have to pray, they pray like that. They just pray like that. To the best of their ability to remove the najis. And then when they're able to remove it completely, they do the prayer all over again. Right? Some people understand that. Okay, is it enough that we cover the skin, or we need to cover the shape as well? For example, it's okay to wear hand socks that is skin tight. Okay, for the prayer, it's for the salat only. For salat, don't misunderstand this to be for going out. For the salat only, covering this color of your skin is required. Right? Covering the color of the skin is required for salat. What is makruh to wear tight things, like to wear tights and so on, to show the figure of the body, right? But if someone were to wear tights and they were to pray, and all of their aura is covered, right, by this, this tights, this spandex, right? The prayer is counted. The prayer is valid, right? But of course, this is another type of aura, is the aura in front of men. Right, the aura in front of men who are not your family, they're not mahram to you. Right, so that you can't wear tight clothes in front of them. Right, you can't wear tight clothes in front of them. As for hand socks, right? So for hand socks, it is not like you are showing the with the prayer, no problem. Because prayer you can wear tight if you want to, doesn't matter, right? But if you're wearing hand socks in front of men, right, it's not showing off the shape, right, of your hand, unless your sleeves are really short, and the hand socks like really just grip onto your arms, and that shows the shape of your body, right? But if it's a small amount of, space by the wrists, right, subhanAllah, that is just, for precaution, right? But that would not mean that you're showing off the shape, right? Because otherwise, how are you going to wear socks? Socks basically, clings onto your feet, right? I mean, it's not possible for you to wear loose socks, right? Your socks basically cling onto your feet. But it's understood. It is understood because there is an inability to actually make that place loose, right, in that way. Right. I was speaking about the head and the neck and the hair because these are parts of beauty. Right. So someone could see through someone's hijab and see the slenderness of their neck, right? And the band that's beneath their hijab, then that would be an exposure of their aura. I'm not saying about prayer unless the color of the skin can be seen, but I'm saying about in front of men. Okay, I'm speaking about in front of men. Do we need to wear mask when praying outside? You don't have to wear a mask if you know what. I don't know what's the rule in the country right now. You have to cover your chin. The question is you have to cover. The answer is you have to cover your chin, up to what's beneath your chin. But wearing a mask up to you, lah. It's really up to you whether you want to wear a mask. I don't know what's the ruling in the COVID situation, whether you must wear a mask or not. But in the fiqh rulings, you don't have to wear a mask. You just have to cover your chin. Okay, is posting the result of scanning the fetus considered as exposing our aura? No, right? No, the insides of your body is not aura. The inside is the outsides of your body that is aura. The insides of your body is not aura. Okay. With regards to pork that has hit the clothing, um, we must be very sure that it is pork. If not sure, is it excusable? Okay, if you're not sure, then yes, it is excusable. But on the side of wara, on the side of being scrupulous, then to just clean it anyway. Okay, so what's why is terkung? Terkung is a Malay word for perigamen. Yeah. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, we're gonna stop here for now, and we will come back at 9:30. Right, inshallah. And Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let's resume our class. Bismillah. 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 To get my mic in. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All right. There was one question here. Someone said if we have any products on with alcohol, as part of the ingredients in skincare or lotion, etc., is it permissible to put them on when we pray? The answer is if it's ethanol, right? If it's ethanol, I'm going to check what kind of alcohol it is. So not all alcohols, right? But ethanol, right? So yeah. So before you pray, just wash them off. Let's wash off the alcohol. All right. Let us continue with our book, The Quest for Virtuous Character. Okay. All right. And let's actually have two of these books. Okay, let us continue. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. From the book The Quest for Virtuous Character by Al-Habib Muhammad bin Abdullah al-Haddad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us by him and by his knowledge and the words. So he has said relations with young people. Relations with young people. So he said, it is reported in the revival of the religious sciences, meaning Ihya Ulumuddin, that Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was the most merciful of people to women and youth. In this regard, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whoever has 3 daughters or sisters and patiently endures the hardships and adversities in raising them will be entered by Allah into the garden because of his mercy towards them. A man asked, and if there are only 2, ya Rasulullah? And he said, if there are 2. Then another one asked, and 1? And to which he replied, and 1. MashaAllah, that is the mercy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, so here, with regards to young, right, so especially to women, the youth, because in the past, especially in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was something that he had to change. Right? It was a culture, whereby they used to hate women and they used to hate having daughters, and it was a culture that had to change. Right, so 3 daughters or sisters. Right, so basically, if a man were to be supporting, right, this woman, and of course, this would be understood that if a woman were to be supporting, other people, the same reward for them. Right? So it's not something that is specific to a gender, right? But it's specific to an action, right? So an action of supporting. Right. So if you support someone, in their studying, you support someone in their, in their upbringing, you support someone in whatever way you support the person, then you fall under this category of someone who patiently endures the hardships and adversities in raising them. And inshallah, they'll be entered into the garden, right? So here he said 3, and then he said 2, and then he said 1 out of his mercy, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And alhamdulillah for a merciful prophet who makes it so easy for us to enter into Jannah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever goes to the marketplace of the Muslims and buys something, carries it home himself, and prefers to give it to his daughters rather than his sons, receives a divine glance. And whoever Allah glances upon is not punished. MashaAllah. The nadra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here you see, mashallah, here you see, you're wondering why buy something for your daughters and not for your sons, right? This is again, it is context, right? So context of the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whereby people used to just purchase things for their sons and not for their daughters. They used to do that, right? They used to dislike the daughters so much that they would always, give stuff to their sons, right? And they will always have a double standard with regard between sons and daughters. And Allah Alam, maybe whether that has continued till today, mashallah. I know people who will say, yeah, it is true, in certain cultures or certain families, it is true that the sons are, they are treated differently as compared to the daughters, and in some families it's still a case, whereby sons are treated differently as compared to daughters, whether it is it's a good differently, or whether it's a you would say on a disadvantage or an advantage kind of differently, right? But the bottom line here, right, is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, is encouraging for people to not dislike the female in their family, or dislike anyone for that matter, right, in their family. So if the culture has flipped, right, and that maybe people in our time, they prefer, they tend to spoil the daughters more than their sons. Maybe in some families they do that, right, whereby the daughter gets whatever she wants, and the son gets it harder. Allahu alam. It is a matter of not doing that. It is a matter of not treating someone lesser than everyone else, right? So whether it's male or whether it's female, it is a matter of not treating anyone lesser than everyone else, right? But to treat them all the same, right? Inshallah. He also, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, the fragrance of a child is from the fragrance of Jannah, mashallah. And then subhanallah, when you breathe in babies, right, there is a smell about them. And it's not their powder or their baby, lotion or whatsoever. No, that there is like a natural smell that babies have, mashallah, right? That is it's beautiful, mashallah, right? And this is where the hadith is coming from, right? The smell of Jannah, right? The babies have smell of Jannah, right? So you take them and you sniff them, right? And then hopefully nothing in their diaper, right? But basically in their natural smell. When you just bathe them, right? So when you just bathe the babies and you sniff the babies, there's the smell that comes out of them, right? And there's the smell of Jannah, right? Because they are, and why smell of Jannah, right? Because they are closest to purity, right? They're closest to purity and closest to coming from where they came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. So the fragrance of a child is the fragrance from Jannah. This means that the parent is never soothed enough by the fragrance of his child. He also, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, whoever has a child should play with him in a childlike way. MashaAllah. So now I have a proof of being childish with the children. And so now I'm doing that. Right. Right. So when you're with children, right, to be childish, right, it is to give the children their rights. Right, it's a sunnah, right, to actually be childish with the children, to be childlike, to have a silliness that children have, right, to make funny, jokes that children laugh at, mashallah, whatever it is, right, and yeah, mashallah, right. So even if you were to baby talk, right, to your babies, right, they will fall under this, right, to as a child, right, to play with him in a childlike way, right, to go down to their level and to entertain them, right, and this is what would really nurture them, and this is what would protect them, right, our bond with them. And this is where many people, they lack, they fall short or they lose out on, right, when to actually be there in the growing up years of your children, and to have them form a very strong bond with you. As Sayyidina Ali, he gave us advice on parenting. And Sayyidina Ali said, the first 7 years, right, be their playmates, right? Play with them, right? The first 7 years, you are their playmates, right? Play with them. And that is how you bond and you create a very, strong relationship with your children. And that they have, a comfort with you and they respect you. And of course, maintain a respect, right? Maintain a respect, right, that your children must necessarily have towards you. So as much as you are their playmate, right, you are first and foremost their parent, and they should never not see that. Right? They should always see that you are their parent who's playing with them. So don't be a playmate who's not a parent. Right, so you're still parenting, and the way of parenting is playing, right, with them as a parent. Right, and this is where in other parts we just went through it early on in relations with parents, right, and in relations with one's children, right, to actually to teach them, right, to teach them to be dutiful towards you. And you mentioned this earlier on, and over again you mentioned this, like, to teach your children sami'na wa ata'na. I teach them, we hear and we obey. right? Teach them to be that way, right? That when when you have decided something as the parent, right, that it has been decided, khalas, right? It has been decided. Like don't make it seem as if they are the boss of you or they control you, right? How many people do that, and what you end up doing is that you end up you end up nurturing monsters. You end up nurturing people who are selfish. You end up nurturing people who are unreasonable. You end up nurturing people who are self-centered. Right? They only care about themselves, themselves, themselves. Right. So if you were to teach your children, one, first and foremost, to obey authority, and to obey authority, and most of the time, as a parent, right, what you are commanding them on, or what you are, directing them on, it is for the benefit of all, right? Especially for their own benefit, right? So be that, teach them, right? Teach them that, that I hear and I obey, right? And even as a teacher for myself, as a teacher, right, when I say something and they begin to whine, they begin to complain, right, I'll just say to them, what's the answer? The answer to what I just said. What's the response? The response is labbaik ya ustaza. What's the response? The response is yes, ustaza, right? At your service, ustaza. Like whatever I say, right? What's the response? At your service, right? So not, oh, I don't want this, I don't want, I don't want, I don't want, and they cry into a tantrum, and then you give in to the tantrum that they throw, right? What are you teaching, right? What are you teaching? The kind of parenting, right? So when we say play with your children in the first 7 years, yes, play as a parent. As a parent, you're going to play as a parent, right? Because you are parenting nonetheless, right? You are not, so you're not going to do things like, that they choose to do that, right? Well, it's not a good idea. As an adult, it's not a good idea, right? So you got to put your foot down, right? Or if they refuse, to do what they need to do, like clean up their room, or to clean up their, or take responsibility over what they have done, or to bear with consequences, over their actions. These are all parts of tarbiyah. It is all part of parenting, as well as putting them on a tartib, like putting them on a schedule, and on studying and on homework and on when it's playtime and so on, right? All of these things, right? You are the parent, you are the adult in charge, not them, their children. They go by their nafs, right? They just go by their nafs, right? You go by what is best for them, right? So, be the adult in the picture. Right. So sometimes people when they hear, albeit, play with your children, then they play and they're not adults. You are adult. You can't be a child. You can play with them in a childlike manner, right? But always maintain an authority, right? And this authority, it is to protect them. That's what the authority is about. It is to protect them. It is to guide them. It is to nurture them. That's why you're maintaining an authority. Right? And that's why you teach them to respect the authority, right? That this is all for your own good, right? Especially when it comes to studies, when it comes to etiquette, when it comes to adab, right? When it comes to, in a sense, maturing, also growing up and maturing, right? And how many people, keep their children as babies, right? For a long time, they're still babies. Even when they have gone to primary school, they're still babies, right? So, and it's your fault. Right? It is your fault that you're babying your children, right? And you have not taught them, right, to be more mature, and more grown up, as the age they should be, right? So at their own appropriate ages, mashallah. Right. So here there is so there's a hadith here. So I was going to the one of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, right, whereby he said the first 7 years, play with them, be their playmates, right, but you are the parents. Right? Understand that you are the parents, and teach them the rights of the parent. Right, teach them the rights of the parent. Right, so something that mentioned, I'm going to emphasize this, right, to actually teach them to say labbaik. Right, labbaik, right, or to say we hear and we obey. Right, teach them to say it to their parents. Right, so if you say we're going to go here, and you're like, huh, and they complain, and you're like, what did I say? Like, what did I say? Right, and then who am I? I'm your mom, right? I'm your mother, right? Am I going here? Right? Because it is good for you. It is good for us, right? It's all for our akhirah. It's for the goodness of our family, right? So, Bismillah. What's the answer? Insha'Allah, Ummi. Labbaik, Ummi. Bismillah, Ummi. How can I help? That's the answer. right? Teach them how to answer, right? Teach them how to answer. Just now I was teaching at there was an event earlier on today. Um, what's it called? Quran Explorers, Explorers earlier on today. At Changi, right? So there was so when we were correcting the Fatiha, right? So we broke them down into groups, right? So I had a group with me, right? And when I gathered my group with me, and this is when you have to really teach them what is etiquette. And from a very young age, teach them what is etiquette, right? Teach them manners. Right? So as much as you play with them and you make jokes with them and you fool around with them, right? If there is a breach in etiquette, right, you need to address it immediately, right? Because you are the parent, you are the adult that is in charge of raising them, right? You're in charge of that. If there's a breach in etiquette towards you as a teacher or as the parent, you need to address it immediately. Because if you don't address it immediately, then all you're doing is raising children to who do not know how to respect their own parents. Right? And we see many people, many of our kids, a lot of our kids, I'm finding this more and more amongst the children, especially when I teach outside, more and more, right? They have such, their mouths never stop commenting. They're always commenting on every single thing, right? To the point you don't even realize that their comments are rude, right? They have rude comments. And they comment on every single thing, and it does border on rude. I don't even bother on rude. It is rude. Right? It is rude, outright rude. Subhanallah. Right? So I was speaking to them, and I was saying to them, okay, I'm going to go through your Fatiha. I'm going to hear your Fatiha, and I'm going to be very strict on you. All right, I'm going to be very strict on you so as to get your Fatiha right. Right. So so one of the girls, she was right in front of me, right? And she was like, oh, I don't like strict. Like, very teachers speaking to you and you're like, I think she's primary 3 or something. She's primary 3. Right? Oh, I don't like strict. Then I said, but strict is good because strict brings you towards excellence. Right? You will be excellent in how you recite. And she'll say, oh, I don't like strict. I don't like strict. I don't like strict. I don't like strict. Like strict is I hate it. know me. We thought when the kid speaks that way, like they will be addressed, inshallah. Right? They will be addressed, definitely addressed. I will not let it go. This kind of behavior, this kind of speech in front of the teacher, right? It's not acceptable, and they must be taught that it is not acceptable speech, right? So so I said that I looked at her, and I looked at her in the eye, and she shut up. She shut up. Like she just kept quiet, but she realized that she really she crossed the boundary, right? She in a sense she transgressed. She crossed it. She knows it. She knew she was being disrespectful. I give her a look, like and she stopped. And then I said that I just said to her, first and foremost, right, speaking that way is not polite. Right? Speaking that way is not polite. Right? When I say something, right, there's a reason why I'm saying it. Right? Then I said to them, if I'm not strict on you, can you imagine, right? If the Prophet Muhammad was not strict on his companions. So when he taught the Fatiha, if he was not strict, right, he would not, impress upon them, emphasize on them the correct way of reciting Surah Fatiha. So it could be they might have learned the wrong Fatiha. Then they will teach the next generation. And if they are not strict, with how it is being passed on, of how the knowledge or the recitation of Surah Fatiha is being passed on to the next generation, it's going to get worse. And so on and so forth. And if it comes to our time, we have lost Fatiha. But it is because and I really explained to them. I actually explained to them, and I give them an example. So I said, if let's say, if you hear you don't learn Fatiha correctly, and you're going Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, Arrahmanirrahim, Maliki yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, then if you go like that, then what if you become parents and you teach your own children? You're gonna do a lousy job, right? Teaching them, and they're gonna learn from you, right, what you did not learn properly. Right, so they're gonna take all of your wrong readings into themselves, and if you're not strict on them, they will even do a worse job, right, in reading Surah Fatiha. And after, and if they have their own children, it gets worse and worse. So I basically I explained it. I explained it to them. Right. But before I explained it, I did, I did give her a look, and she kept quiet. Right. And I did say clearly to them that this kind of speech is unacceptable. Right. This kind of speech is unacceptable. And when I say I'm going to be strict on you, just listen. Right. Listen. Right. Don't just shout out, oh, I hate strict. Right. This is not your place to say. This is not your place to say, oh, I hate strict. If no one's strict, then even our prayer will be lost. Right? If I'm not strict on you as to how you pray, right, then you will forget how to pray. Right? And then you don't know how to teach your own children how to pray. And the prayer will be lost. And the only reason why we have Islam today is because there are people in every generation who were strict. Right? They were strict on their Islam. Right? They were strict, with regards to the performance of worship. They were strict and they were proper. Right? So therefore, we will be strict and we'll be proper. Right? So that we learn things to excellence. Right? And then we pass on what is excellent to the best of our ability, inshallah. Mashallah. And but it's kind of things, right? So while you play and you joke and whatsoever with them, right, you need to teach them when they cross the line with regards to etiquette with you as a parent, right, or as a teacher, or as an auntie, right, or as a, whatever you are as the adult, right, as the adult that is in their lives, right. You need to teach them that you don't speak this way towards me and your mother, right? You don't raise your voice towards me. I'm your mother. Right? Or this is your father. You don't raise your voice towards us. Right? You don't throw a tantrum, right? Right there and then. You need to nip it. Nip it and stop this kind of behavior, because otherwise it will just continue. And even worse, right? If you would actually, in a sense, like you respond to that kind of behavior by giving them what they threw a tantrum about, right? Then you're teaching them that tantrum works. You're teaching them that disobedience works. You're teaching them that to rebel against you, right, it is a way in which they can get their way, in which they can go through life to rebel against you. You're teaching all these things. Right? So be very, very careful. And it starts very young, right? It starts very young. Right. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, right, that so I'm going back to the parenting advice. Said Ali, I said for 7 years to play with them, but you are a parent nonetheless. You are nurturing. So the way of nurturing is to play, right? The next 7 years, from 7 to 14, it's a very famous statement of Sayyidina Ali. From 7 to 14, you are a disciplinarian. A disciplinarian, right? Meaning like you are, like, in a sense, iron fist. Like you're being iron fist, right? Because that is the age whereby they need to be, in a sense, they need to be shaped. I don't say whip in the shape, not going to whip them, right? But they need to be shaped up, right? Shape them up, right? So you got to be, firm on them. Right? You can explain things to them and you can reason with them. That's what I did with the girl, but I was firm, right? Firm with her. No such behavior, right? No such commenting, right? No such words, right, in front of a teacher. This is not acceptable behavior, right? Subhanallah, right? Today, so many things happened today when I was teaching the kids, right? So and because they are above 7, right? Because they are above, all of them that I taught today, they are above 7 now, right? They are above 7. There is that firmness that comes with it, right? But the way in which you deliver and the way in which you speak to them, right, already has an attractiveness, right, towards them, but a firmness when they step out of line, right? There's a firmness there. And then, so from 7 to 14, there's a firmness, you're a disciplinarian. Then from 14 to 21, right? Sayyidina Ali, he said that from 14 to 21, right, you are like the king, you're like you're the ultimate authority, of course, right? And they are ministers over their own lives. So in a sense, they have a freedom, right, to make choices, right? But at the end of the day, it is your word, right? So you're letting go bit by bit, right? And you're allowing them to make the decisions on what they want to do, right, in their life. But at the end of the day, you are the ultimate authority. You are the king, right, in the house, and you're the ultimate authority up till they are 21 years old. And after 21, they have their own kingdom and you have your own kingdom, right? So they will rule their life after 21. At 21, Yeah, technically that should be the way. At 21, they should be able to make their own decisions and bear the consequences of their own decisions. In a sense, they have had enough training and enough knowledge to know what to do and what not to do. And if they had not had enough, then you got to teach them. Right? So if they were taught from very young about the laws of Islam and so on, right, by 21, they are ready. That they are ready to handle life themselves. Right? And you are there as an advisor. An advisor when advice is sought. Right. So when they can come to you, to seek your advice, but you have no, you no longer, have any, authority or control. Right. They have to obey you still as a parent, right? They have to obey you if you were to voice something out, they must obey you as their parent. Right. But in a sense, I'm talking about parenting. I'm not talking about a child, in their relationship with their parent. I'm talking about a parent and how they parent their children. At 21, let go. At 21, let them make their decisions, right? You don't control them anymore, right? At 21, you don't control them anymore, right? They can ask your advice and you give advice, then up to them what they want to do. Right? But you can voice your displeasure, especially with regards to things that will infringe on your rights. Right, things that would infringe on your rights as a parent, right? So if let's say, like your son, wants to work overseas, or he wants to, um, yeah, if he wants to live overseas and so on, right? And the mother's like, no, or the mother's a widow, and the mother's like, no, please stay here. I want you to look after me. I want you to look after me. So this is her right. It is her right that her child looks after her. It is her right. So she has a right to say to him, I don't want you to go overseas. No, I don't want you to go overseas. I want you to stay here, right here, and serve me and look after me. She has a right to say that, right, if she wants to, right? So and he has to obey. He has to obey his mother, right? In that, mashallah. That was about parenting. All right. And just to follow up on that, if you have established the first 7 years, we play with them, then the next 7 years of being an authority, over them, a disciplinarian, will be easy, right? Because you already have a bond, right, with them, so they respect your authority. And so next 7 years, there should be a respect. But if you did not train that in the first 7 years, it's going to be hard, right, in the next 7 years. And then in the following 7 years, from 14 to 21, if you have not disciplined them into proper, etiquette and proper behavior as a Muslim, then from 14 to 21, you tend to worry, right, about their decisions, right, because they have not been taught well enough. So the 14 to 21 years old, sorry, the 7 to 14 years old is when you really teach them, on how to prioritize what is good in life, how they should work in life and so on. And it is from 7 to 14. Right? That is how you teach them. Right. Then which is why if it's done well, then at 14, right, you'll feel that they know enough. Right? They know enough to make decisions for themselves, and they know what to do if they mess up. And then they know how to, just correct themselves or to repent or so on. And at 21, you feel more confident, right, that they can leave the nest and they can do what they want to do. Right? They can handle their lives, right? And you have done enough in bringing them up at 21. Okay, alhamdulillah. So he says here, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this means that the parent, sorry, afwan, the Prophet ﷺ said, teach your children the prayer at the age of 7, right? And strike them, and not spank them, but strike them over it at the age of 10, and separate the sleeping places of the boys and the girls, right? So listen to the Prophet ﷺ at 7, command to the prayer, right? So at 6, right? At 6, you're going to check their wudu. At 6 or 6.5, you're going to check their wudu, and you're going to, basically keep calling them to the prayer, right? So you're going to do their wudu and the prayer at around 6.5, right? And then and to make it clear to them that when they turn 7, right, all 5 prayers are expected. Right, all 5, not one, all 5, right? So the work happens before 7. Right, so at 6, you tell them 1 prayer or 2 prayers or 3 prayers or 4 prayers. Then eventually, when they hit 7, all 5 prayers are expected, right? And to check their wudu, every single year until they reach puberty. Right? Even after puberty, at the point of puberty, to check their wudu again and their salat again. right? Every single year to check it, right? Or even every few months, right? Check it, right? To see if they're doing it correctly. Naam. And if at 7, they're told to pray, and if they refuse till the age of 10, they refuse to pray, and this is 7 years of calling them to prayer. In fact, not 7 years, 3 years of calling them to prayer, and in fact more than that, because you've been calling them to prayer from the age of 6, or 5. You've been calling them to the prayer, but 7, you are strict. As I mentioned, right? 7 is strictness, right? Strictness begins at 7. Right, so 7, you are strict about it, to get them to pray. But of course, with a lot of stories, right? Stories of the prayer of those who pray and those who don't pray. Right, tell them lots of stories to encourage them and to really impress upon them the importance of prayer. All right. So not just, someone to just, command like that, right? But to make it meaningful, right, for them, and tell them stories. Stories really change people, and it really shakes people into what is into what is important. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, separate the sleeping places of the boys and the girls, right? So if you have sons and daughters, right, they should not be sleeping together in the same room. And the ruling is, as long as one of them, right, is above the age of 10. As long as one of them is above the age of 10, he or she should not be in the same room as their siblings who are of the different gender. Right? So if your son, right, is 11, correct, 10 or 11, and your daughter is 5 or 6, all right, the ruling applies. Right, so your 10-year-old son cannot be sleeping in the same room as your 6-year-old daughter. All right. But if your son and daughter are 6 and 5, no problem. Right. But it's just the 10-year-old can't be in the same room. Right? And this is all from the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right. He also said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hang a whip where the members of the family can see it, and it serves as a deterrent for them, right? So he says the whip there is to serve as a deterrent, right? Not to be used, right? But it just serves as a deterrent, and mashallah, it works. It works. In Tarim, they have this thing called sibr, right? Sibr, it is a black substance. It's food. It's a black substance. In Malay, I think called jadam. Jadam is a black substance. It's extremely bitter, extremely bitter. But it's good for your memory. It's actually good for you, right? But it's extremely bitter. Right? But in the kindergartens, and it's the answer to the one who's asking the question right now, right? In the kindergartens in Darin, right, they would actually threaten the children to put sibr in their mouths if these children don't know how to behave or speak well, right? So they and the kids in the kindergarten in Darim, most of them, in fact, all of them, would have never tasted sibr before. They have never tasted it, but they heard about the horrifying stories of it. I said, but most of them have never tasted it before in their lives, in their small lives, mashallah. But they heard of how terrible it tastes and it's so bitter. So the word itself is terrifying, right? To them, it's terrifying. So that will straight away make them, behave. Because they're terrified of the sibr that you put in the mouth, and it is so bitter, it's so terrible, right? But it's actually good for them, it makes them, it improves their memory, right? But it's a food substance. It's called jadam in our culture, right? So so those who think that from 0 to 7 you can't discipline, then you are wrong. Right, 0 to 7, yes, you discipline. As I mentioned, while you're playing with them, you are the parent and you are the authority. You do discipline. Right, you do discipline. And what do I mean by discipline? Right, age appropriate discipline. Right, age appropriate discipline. Right, so either by a timeout in the corner, right, or to speak to them in a firm voice, right, in a firm voice, to show this is not acceptable, and to show a strict face, in the sense that this behavior, right, cannot be accepted. This behavior right here cannot be accepted. Right, you understand. Right, because this is how the nafs works. The nafs, right, the nafs is a monster in a human being. The nafs is a monster in a human being. And the monster of this nafs begins very young. Right, so what you're seeing in your 2-year-old or 3-year-old, and they call it in our culture the terrible 2 cerebral trees, right, because it is a nafs rearing its very ugly head, like in the 2-year-old or 3-year-old that refuses to obey. So from there has to be there has to be consequences. right, to actions, but age appropriate. Right, so no raising of the hand, no pinching, no striking, right, no touching of their body, in that way of causing harm. But as you see with what some has said, right, just to hang the whip, just to hang the rotan, like hang the whip there, right, and then like to walk towards it, right, it's enough to make them scared. Right, it's enough. So you're never going to use it, right? You're just going to hang it there, right? And then sometimes it's just to show if they're really not behaving, to take it down and then just to whip the air. Right? Whip the air, not them, but the air. Make a sound like that, or to whip the couch like that, mashallah. You're not going to touch them, right? But it's basically part of discipline, right? Children undergo discipline from as young as 2. As young as 2, they undergo discipline because the nerves begins to manifest itself from as young as 2. You get it? If you don't discipline these nerves at the age of 2, these ugly nerves from the age of 2 will continue into adulthood. And that's how we see, children in the age of 10, 11, and 12 having the nerves of a 2-year-old. And you see adults at the age of 20, 30, and 40 having the nerves of a 2-year-old because they were never trained, right? Right. So to answer the question here, right? So if a child who is in the first 7 years challenges your authority, and it happens often throughout the day, do you still handle it with love? The answer is being strict is love. Don't misunderstand that. Being strict is you loving. Don't think love is all gentle and hugs and kisses. Right? When I am strict with my students to make them recite Surah Al-Fatiha correctly, am I loving them? I am. I am loving them because I want their salat to be correct. I want their character to be correct. I want them to know how to behave as Muslims. I want them to have on their scale of good deeds, good character, right? So don't equate, don't fail to equate strictness with love. Don't feel that. Being strict is love. Being strict is love. Understand that? You get it, right? The nerves needs to be disciplined. The nerves need strictness, and the nerves needs consequences. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created heaven and He created hell. Because, it's for a lot of us, the promise of heaven is not good enough. Right, but the threat of hell is what gets us up and pray subuh in the morning, right? The threat of hell, right? Most human beings, unfortunately, like we work better with threats, right, than with incentives, unfortunately, right? Which is why most people just do the wajib and they kind of in and out about the sunnah, right? Because sunnah is extra stuff, but wajib or not doing it will have consequences, right? So of course, for your child, before the age of 7, to be very firm, right? And firm, what I mean by firm? Firm voice, right? Firm voice. So for example, right, your child has a class, come for a class, okay? Child throws a tantrum, I don't want to go, 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 all right? Just look at them square in the face and say, we are going. All of us are going. And you are to say, yes, you will go. It's firm. Be very firm. Okay? And those who will not go, you will be left alone at home. And like all will help, but everybody's get out of the house. Everyone's get out of the house. They will come out. They will come out. They're too scared to be home alone. They can't be home alone. Right? They say, we're gonna go. We're gonna go, we're gonna go. Right? SubhanAllah. Right? And basically just be firm. Right? Be firm. And just because otherwise they won't do anything that's good for them. If you're gonna follow their nuts all the time, they just wanna, I don't know, they don't wanna learn anything at all. Right? They want the nuts just wants to sleep, or nuts to lie down, like nuts just want to waste time. And the nuts is like that. Right? So you are the one who's gonna say to them, we are going. And don't entertain any argument at all. Don't entertain any argument at all. Full stop. Right? Don't entertain any argument. Right? You can to make it more sweet to them. Tell them stories about those who go for these kind of events, for classes. Right? The barakah in it, the blessings in it. Tell all the stories. It might not work. Right? But at the end of the day, right? Firm foot. Right? A firm foot. If you give in, you're just giving them the message that throwing a tantrum and going against your words works. That's all you're teaching them. You don't want to do that. Right? You don't want to do that. Right? Any recommendations for that such books, hadith stories for kids? I have a lot in Arabic. There's a lot in Arabic, in English or in Malay. You can go and search lah. But my foundation is all Arabic. How do we deal with space limitation with a girl 11, boy 8, and 2? We only have one room for the kids. Currently, the girl is on the bed, boys on the mattress. You have a hall. You know, in the past, people lived in 2-room or 3-room flats, and the boys sleep in the hall, right? So, like I have a relative. There were 11 children, all at 1 year apart. As they were growing up, they had mattresses in the house in Singapore, a 3-room flat, so that there was a hall and 2 bedrooms, right? So the girls would take 1 bedroom, right? The parents would take 1 bedroom, right? And the boys were all in the hall, right? The boys were all in the hall. They teach the boys to be in the hall, right? Or the boys be in the parents' room, right? Boys be in the parents' room. I know my own in-laws. My husband was informing me. They're in a very small 3-room flat. As my husband was saying to me, as he was growing up, his parents really prioritized that their children study very well in school. So they had 2 bedrooms and 1 hall. The parents slept in the hall. That was the sacrifice of the parents. The parents slept in the hall, and the parents gave 1 room to the boys and 1 room to the girls, right? So if you have 1 room for the kids, right, that 1 room goes to the girls. The 1 room goes to the girls. The boy either with you, in your room, right? Or the boy but the boy is 8. He's not 10. He's not 10 yet. So when they're 10, they should be brave enough to sleep in the hall. Right? They're 10. Right? 10 should be brave enough. If they're not brave enough, then teach them to be brave. Right? Inshallah. Read Ayatul Kursi and it's gonna be easy for you. Right. Right. Question here, he would be strict. What's this question? He would be strict done on him to his siblings, and I submit to. What do you mean? I don't understand the question. Do you mean that's the question? I can't make out what you're asking. He would be strict done on him to his siblings. Okay, then tell him that it is not his right to discipline his siblings. Tell him, as the brother, it is not his right to discipline his siblings, right? But it is the parents' right. The parents' discipline, not the child. Parents' discipline. So therefore, and this is what I do in class as well. Right? If one child or if one student, keeps, like bothering other students, or they keep reporting to me, about other students, I will say to them, I see the entire class and I will correct what I correct. Right? So you're not the teacher, I'm the teacher. I will correct what I correct. Okay? Right? So it's not when you have your own children, you correct your children. But I will correct my children. Okay? To be very, very firm. Okay? Okay, last question. I have class at 10:15. So I have to get off. Now it's 10:15 already. We have a class now. Can you advise if the children's grandparents give in to their nerves a lot because they don't want to hear them cry? How best to handle the situation? If you are placing your kids with your parents, for your parents to look after your kids, you don't have a choice. It is basically your decision to place your kids with your parents. If you're going there once a week, right, to visit the grandparents, then once a week is not going to harm. Inshallah, not going to harm so much. Inshallah. When the rest of the week they are with you. Right? But if you're going to place them in the hands of your parents to look after, then you can't control your parents, right? Because you place your kids in their hands. So you can't, in a sense, dictate your parents how you want your kids to be brought up. You put your kids in their hands. You get it? Right? So you have no right to say how I want my kids to be brought up. Right, to your aged parents, especially when they find that giving gadgets or giving a TV, giving cartoons is the easiest for them. They are aged. They are old. Right? If you want good and solid tarbiyah or good and solid upbringing for your children, then you need to do it. And they need to be with you majority of the time. Right? Then you can do it. But don't expect other people to do it. Okay? All right? I'm going to stop there for today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.